I'm Zee, and I play guitar and sing in Queen Zee.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So let's talk about the band.
Yeah.
So when you were starting out as a band, who did you look at as like inspiration? Who did you look at and think, we want to be like that?
It was a bit weird, to be honest, because we never really started as a group. It started myself demoing and Jay seeing the demos online. So, I've just always kind of liked anything kind of fuzzy and noisy and kind of punky. So, I don't really know what I was trying to do. I was definitely trying to do something a bit more pop orientated than the kind of hardcore bands that I've been in previously. But yeah, I'm not totally sure. Probably more pop artists, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, so you were mentioning how the UK scene is now. Do you think that punk has evolved a lot since the original days in the late 70s?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's still obviously bands that look back, and love those records. And, even with Queen Zee, people, mention influences that we have that are really dated, that are kind of 40, 50, 60 years old now. But at the same time, punk has grown and changed and so on, and you've got hardcore and post-hardcore and whatever, and this genre and that genre, and it's splintered. I think what has been great within the punk scene recently is that it's kind of got focused. So I think the shock factor of punk that started back in the day, where you just said anything just to be offensive and shocking, it's now kind of, there's been almost like a movement away from that, and it's kind of gone, okay, no, let's be shocking for the right reasons. Let's be shocking because, my gender's not mainstream, or let's be shocking because my sexuality's not mainstream, or so on and kind of so forth.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like in the early days, had bands like Dead Kennedys that are making songs like I Kill Children just for the sake of being out there and dangerous and extreme, and now punk scene's more focused. Let's talk about your message. I saw you supporting Marmosettes in February, and the show in there, you had a lot of messages you were trying to put across, and do you feel like punk's a unique platform that gives you the opportunity to say that?
I don't think punk's unique. I think youth culture is unique, and I think music that comes out of any kind of form of oppression, whether that is hip hop or grime or electro or whatever, you will be picking up the messages and the sentiments of those creators. Typically I find that you'll have if you take a kind of a transgender artist, such as whether that is someone who identifies as non-binary and is a hip-hop artist, or someone like a trans woman fronting a punk band, they're both singing about very similar struggles. So I don't think necessarily musically it's unique. What I think is unique about punk is punk not necessarily relies on a political message, but is almost like improved by having that energy. Sometimes you want to hear a soul song that is just full of love and passion, whereas punk, you kind of, you want it to be angry, you want it to be aggressive, you want it to kind of awaken something within you. So I think that's probably what is the driving force of punk.
We'll carry on talking about that. You mentioned the transgender messages there. Do you think enough effort is being put into transgender rights at the moment, or is it something that needs to transcend beyond music and be something that's in a bigger mainstream perspective?
I think it's quite interesting the way transgender rights are portrayed at the moment. On one hand, I think we've got the most support that we've ever had, and on the other hand, I think we're more demonized than maybe we've ever been. The mainstream press has consistently ran articles recently really demonizing and really not just actually picking apart just trans people in general, but actually focusing on charities. Particularly, there was a particularly vicious one about Mermaids, which is a charity that helps transgender children, and I found it incredibly kind of sick that someone could ever find fault with that. As a music scene, there are artists out there who are transgender, and there are artists that are talking about it and having that message spread. It's hard to kind of say, should we give these artists more attention or not? If someone musically is rubbish, should we pay attention to their gender? And that's a debate with it. However, what I feel that transgender artists actually don't necessarily receive the same level of attention in the first place. So you normally drop down the festival bill, you're normally considered weird or an outcast, or, oh, we can't sell this, we can't market this is uncomfortable, which will only change really with more and more exposure, not just within music, but within film, within television, within the media, within day-to-day life, and people just talking about it and being open with it, generally, not just within one particular aspect.
Yeah, so you're thinking that maybe if there's one big break for a transgender artist, it could change the scene, like for example Queen with gay rights.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I would love to see, for me a really big moment was I sat in bed one day and I was watching the highlights of Red and Leeds, and I watched Laura Jane Grace against me walk out onto the main stage of Red and Leeds, and just to see like a trans woman walk out and sing Transgender Dysphoria Blues was just amazing. It was just amazing to see that. It was like, oh my god, that's incredible. The unfortunate thing is bands, like Against Me and some of these kind of transgender punk bands, because you are a punk band, it is unlikely you are going to bother the charts, a lot. I think it will be, a transgender pop artist or a non-binary pop artist that would be the one where people will go, oh wow, what's kind of the rights surrounding that, what's the conversation surrounding that.
Yeah, well, it's a hope for the future there, definitely. Thank you for taking the time for this. I really appreciate it.
That's brilliant.